Oh, hello, and welcome back to class. Here we'll discuss, well, we're making the indie game using SDL2. There's some games we can pick from, since we're not too late in the series. We're making one for Marvel games. We can make a DC game, Batman, what have you. You can make a Ninja Turtles game, Alien vs. Predator, or Dragon Ball Z. I drew some sprites and things. If you didn't see the video already. We talked about how to input the sprites. For this Ninja Turtle game, we could make just Ninja Turtle guys. I think this computer does filtering or whatever. I'll do some Foot Clan members and drew some Ninja Turtles down here at the bottom. We could work on that game or whatever. I also drew some like Alien vs. Predator sprites. But it's the only few. I don't know what else to draw on there other than the chest burster and the other guy. For Dragon Ball Z game, I tried drawing some, I tried to draw the different forms of Super Saiyan, and I drew a few characters like Raditz and Cooler and the Ginyu Force and some of the NPCs and what have you. That'll be a different type of game. I'm not really sure what kind of game we want to make. You can tell me down below what kind of game you want to play. If you'd like to know more about the Simple Directmedia Layer or game development, you can watch my course series down below in the description. But right now we're working on the Marvel game. Last time, in the first video we talked about, I took about spriting. I took Magneto and turned him into Moon Knight, and then there's a lot of other characters here on this game thing here. And I'm not really sure what kind of game we're making. I'm thinking more of your main character may be Spider-Man or one of the X-Men or something. So I tried to give the same functionality as you played a lot of games in the 90s, so it had Spider-Man and Venom in it as playable, selectable characters. And also try to draw a lot of the other enemies that they face, and the characters I've seen in different games, and also some of the characters that the X-Men have seen, other playable characters that might be useful. I know that Magneto's usually a playable character in some games, at least used to be in the 90s. So I try to make each one have the same amount of functionality, so maybe we could play any of the characters in the game, or any game that you picked. So, I started. They started a steady state. So when you're making a game engine or what have you, this is probably too big for memory because you're porting it for different devices. I might need to have each player might need to be on their own sprite sheet. But I gave them. Right now I'm just trying to line up their animations so all of them will do the same animations at different intervals here. How I draw characters, I usually have like a template, and from the template character. I just draw the stuff around the character, and then that makes that character. And so if I have like someone that looks similar to that character, like here down, I drew a Hammerhead, I think, from Spider-Man. You have the same hairstyle as Blade, so I just play with, I can alter Hammerhead and turn Hammerhead into Blade. And I'm not really sure which kind of Blade I wanted to draw, so I drew the one with the jacket and the one without the jacket, as the game progresses. Anyway, back over to the compiler. Using code blocks, if you're using, I'm trying to make these videos as fast as possible so people can get to the coding and all the other fun stuff they talk about when you learn how to program using the Simple Directmedia Layer. Alright, what you want to do is make a new project of using the Simple Directmedia Layer. And you're going to make an empty console application, and you press go, and you pick your language. You're not making a math video here. We're on the download, so not making Spider-Man right now. We're making a Marvel game, I think, at least for right now. And I'm going to open a project here, and we're going to call this, I don't know, what would you want to call this? Let's just say let's just say, this is a fan game. We have this is, it's a parody, so, what's this? So let's just call it Spider-Man, Spider-Man, and this is Spider-Man, X-Men, or something along those. Spider-Man, X-Men underscore game or something like that. All right, we finished here. Usually, this is using the terminal. You can press the compile button, the build button here. That's usually it's F5 or something in the terminal. It's compile build here, and it'll give you the output on the terminal window here for those of you using Windows. We started this series using the Linux compiler, the Vim editor. A lot of people aren't using Vim, so we'll swap over to code blocks. In order to add the Simple Directmedia Layer, you go into Build Options, I think, Linker Settings, and then we'll type SDL2 SDL2-L SDL2 image dash L SDL2 mixer-L SDL2 underscore TTF. If you're using other libraries, there's a whole lot of other SDL libraries. If you'd like to know more about the Simple Directmedia Layer, look at my videos down below in the description for more information. But anyway, there's a net library dash L SDL2 GFX or something, and then you can also add OpenGL and other guys if you wanted to. I don't think I'm using. We can have the other libraries in there, but since if I have these, I don't know. Since we're making a two-dimensional game, I don't think we need all those other libraries. I don't think we need a GFX library. We can have net, if we want to play a network play game. All right, click OK here. All right, so let's make a buildable SDL application from here for our project. So what you can do is you can add files to your project. You can second button here, and we're going to add files to our project. Alright, so back in the folder, you want to click the Shift button and the last file. I think it's Shift and the last file or the first file, and it'll select all the selectable files. And you don't want this file, that's the image file from editing. It'll put it added to your project. Okay, and what you want to do is you also want to remove the Hello World file from your project, because that'll cause an error here. We're going to have to reload this project, but we need to remove this main.cpp file, because that's going to cause a problem for us. Remove file from project. Alright, so we have the source files. It'll put the source files, the one we had initially. We're making an indie FanGame in C++ using SDL. And we have the main files, we talked about a bit before, in the files. And then it'll put your header files here in your compiler, and then when you compile, it'll tell you the exact error down here in the compiler. So before it says it gave us a problem about the game it doesn't exist on this whatever type thing. This is in the game.cpp file. Game does not have a type. So alright, we have to fix that problem in order for the program to work, to run efficiently, but it won't work anyway. Just because I didn't implement enough of the functions anyway in the file thing here. Alright, it says missing the type. Let's see if we put in void here, fix this error, and we'll compile it again, see if that fixes. It's still in the same spot. Void game void. It says game has not been. I'm not worry about that right now. Tell you what, we'll just comment it off, and we'll fix it in a minute. So you can comment more than one box of code for the constructors and the deconstructor by pushing to the if you remember, we have a C++ series, and like that. So when we compile again, this program is saying the same error for this. So since all these things say void, it's saying it has an error here for the files that's not declared and what have you. We need to include the SDL, the file that has the particular file material, so we can, I guess, work on that file. So it works for that particular region. This process is called debugging. So I need to include the header file that has the SDL-related materials for my projects, because without those files, the code won't work. The file that had those in this example, I think, was a game.h file. We need to include this game.h file and the game.cpp file, I guess, and we'll see does that fix the problem. And then we'll compile again. Alright, that seemed to fix that error. Alright, so I'm going to get rid of these guys here, and hopefully that error still, it's still good here. It says there's no such file in the directory. Did I name it game.h? Yes, I did name it game.h, but hey, we don't worry about that right now, since the program won't work anyway, because we're not showing anything on the screen, and we're discussing how to get the game files functional. And of course, after you add things to your compiler, click the save button. Alright, so what files we have so far? We have the main.cpp file. In the main.cpp file, there's some array argument things that go here, as you can look at from documentation that usually put there. We call the game.h file, and the game.h file we construct some functions. We have some member functions that are associated with the game engine itself. We may put the game constants here, things like the level width, or something, width or something, or we'll define the level height or something like that. You may want to keep this information, or like tile size. Okay, tile size, level, height. I may come back to this file and fix it. We're not really sure what kind of game we're going to make. I don't know how big the levels will be, what type of game we're constructing right now. But what we're trying to do is incorporate the functionality of the games that we have. So another class that usually I don't see it here. It's supposed to be in this file, but we need to have a player class as well. So you have to explore the functionality of the player. So in this example, in the code we have so far, we're talking about we can implement. We started implementing some SDL subsystems in the last video. We initialized SDL. We checked for errors. So we had to do some information related to initializing each one of the subsystems. They also needed error check-ins, like if they return 0, you're supposed to output a message, loading in resources. We have a function for starting the game. Alright, so we can do that here. So while usually what people do is inside the game class itself, for the variables that they need, they just kind of declare them out here. So you don't really have to use them when we get over to the other class that we call them. So things we need for the game to start the game, we need a boolean. You can also declare them out here if you wanted to, but just for simplicity's sake, we need a boolean that controls the game loop. All right. And it needs to be set to true. All right. And then the other variables that we need to associate with the game loop, that we can put them here as well. So we have a variable of course at first to control the game loop itself, and then yeah. And when the game loop it's a while loop, so when the game loop is set to false, the game loop is terminated. So inside the game.cpp file, we need this is the event loop structure for this type of application. We need to have a while loop for the game that checks for the state of the game being playable. So we're just going to have a game loop here, this boolean variable called game loop. And when we're using code blocks, it gives us some hints, some pointers about. I'm not sure if this is. It depends on the compiler. Everything has to have the same arguments. I'm not sure if it has to have the same objects. This may be wrong. This is game loop. Let's save that. Bool game loop equals true. So I'm gonna copy this and paste it over. You can't copy and paste inside the Vim terminal, so that might be a problem for you. Alright, let's see, because that compile. That still works. So it still works for right now, so let's give me back to the other error. And maybe stuck at that error. May not get down to this error. We will have to fix that in a minute. So anyway, so when the game loop is playing, there's a few things that go on inside the game loop. Usually there's an event loop. So some of these functions here that we talked about earlier will be implemented here in the game loop section. Alright, since they're referring to a class, we may need to use it. We won't have to point to them. We have to use the point. We have to point to them. We have the function. We have to point to where it goes. I believe for us to make this work like it's supposed to work. If you'd like to know more about SDL and C++, watch my video course series down in the description. If you'd like to know more about that part. But anyway, essentially inside the game loop, there's a few things that you're going to take in the game loop. You're going to take in the input. There's a function called input. I'm not really sure what I call it. Here I call it the input actions. We'll work on that in a minute. So we have a function called input actions. You're going to take the input actions from the user as one argument. One thing is what happens here. And another thing that goes on in here is we're going to update. updating is something that goes on inside the game loop function. And also, what we need to do is draw stuff to the screen. So another thing we're going to do is draw stuff to the screen. So I'm just going to use these functions related to drawing. I could probably have a few functions, a few other things here, or make it a lot simpler as we play with this engine and add functions and decrease things and add stuff, take away things. Usually inside the game loop, the first thing you'll have is you're going to take in a user input. You're going to update you're going to take in user input. You're going to update values. That's like for motion, update values, variables for the game, for actions, for motion to take place, and then we're going to draw stuff to the screen. You know, that's pretty much just draw stuff to the screen, to the canvas. If you're familiar with art. All right, we're going to draw things to the screen, and then outside the game loop, you're going to clean up the function. We're going to free up memory here. So you're going to call clean up here when we destroy all the memory and things that we've used. To erase it, press Control Z. We're going to clean up the things outside the game loop. We'll paste them out here, and they're outside the loop because that's what would change. If something happened in the game that changed the game loop to false, like if the player's life was 0, that would terminate the game. Since we really don't know what kind of game we're making right now, this is pretty much the game loop structuring for the program. You go into the game, you check for user input, you regulate time frames per second. One way to regulate frames per second, update values. You can just say SDL_delay, and then you need, like, so it's pretty much 1,000. That's because 1 millisecond, 1 million of a second divided by 60, and that'll get the frame rate to something you can use. You know, pretty much. This is another thing we do when we play with animation. But this pretty much would turn the frame rate into 60 frames a second. Just little piece of code right here turned into 60 frames a second, because that's 1 second divided by 60. And you know, what more could you want to do with it? All right, and then input actions. What you do is there's also another loop inside the input actions. The input actions function requires some arguments in SDL2 that are associated in the game class. We talked about a bit before. It's the SDL event here. We made member variables. Well, somebody made member variables for the events for the window and things. Yeah, that's kind of sad too. Well, pretty much what you're going to do is you're going to have a while loop inside of here for the SDL windowing events go on here, but you need a reference to those window events. All right, in the next video we'll talk about doing some input actions using the Simple Directmedia Layer in the next video.